Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Normalizing Accountability and Civil Societies as Tools of Justice panel. Today, I have two great guests with me. Unfortunately, one of our guests couldn't attend because of unforeseen circumstances, but I'm very grateful to the two guests we have, Fitsum Burhana and Mabrihi Burhana as well. So thank you both for attending today. Your time is greatly appreciated. And also thank you for being involved in the Human Rights and Democratization campaign, which we had been running for the last month. It had been extended a bit because there was a lot more that needed to be done. So happy that that campaign is successfully now is being finished with this panel. So welcome everyone who's watching today. Today we'll be discussing not just the panel, not just the campaign as such, but also the kind of work that Human Rights First, who is being represented by Mabrihi Burhana here, and Tigray, who's also being represented by Fitsum Burhana, and the kind of work that they have been doing. They're based in Ethiopia, and they're nonprofits who specifically focus on human rights, advocacy, and we'll be focusing on both the work that the organization has done on its individual capacity and also within the campaign. So just to speak about the campaign first and foremost, the campaign was begun last month, and the main aims of the campaign is to push for accountability in Tigray. A lot of different organizations in the diaspora had been involved, including the Tigray Youth Network, Omna Tigray, Iroba Anina, and we have UTE as well from Europe. And we had the local organizations such as Tigray and Human Rights First. So it was a successful campaign in alerting people of the kind of violations, human rights violations that were happening within Tigray, but also kind of touching on the need for engagement of civil societies to combat some of these issues. Most of the things that were discussed within the campaign fall underneath the human rights umbrella, or the issue of governance. So we used those two scopes to kind of identify some of the issues we wanted to discuss. We wanted to kind of create a discussion about. And we also created a good space, I think, for us to start engaging with civil societies in Tigray, so that we can empower them, but also we can support them as much as is needed and as much as they have asked for. So thank you both for joining us today. I will try to give it to you to introduce yourselves. So first I'll go to Fitsum Burhana, who is representing Tigray today. So Fitsum, if you just introduce yourself and Tigray.
Thank you, Melat. Thank you for organizing this panel. My name is Fitsum Burhana. I think people kind of know me. Tigray, that I think not enough people know it. It has been established 5 years ago. It was established mainly to serve Tigrayans all over Ethiopia that were being harassed, to give them some legal options, to serve them as a voice. That was the main reason that it was established. Its work was mainly curtailed by the war and the genocide and what happened after and before that. Now we are getting back to work. So and now we have been participating in this campaign. I think it was a successful campaign. It highlighted so many issues. So that's what we are doing right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Fitsum. Thank you for introducing yourself and Tigray as well. We'll go to Mabrihi so that Mabrihi can introduce Human Rights First.
Thank you so much, Meli. First of all, we are very happy to be part of the campaign and engage about accountability and human rights in Tigray, particularly. So we were established 5 years ago in Addis because of the increasing targeting of ethnicity in Addis and elsewhere, we were just forced to establish this organization because there was no organization representing Tigrayans and other minorities. So most of the NGOs are represented by the so-called majority. So since we were established, actually we were working, we started our work by charging the former ISAT journalists. So we were trying to bring that to the court, but at that time the ISAT was has good relationship with the government, so we can't achieve that at that time. So we started by doing this, and during the war, you know that it was very difficult to actively participate. I mean, openly participate. So we were not openly working, but we were working, but not open to the government because the government will target us. So we were hiding ourselves, but we were working with international organizations and international news agencies. So we have, I can say, 4 objectives. I mean, what we do is like litigation is our first priority, like human rights violations, including bringing charge against the Ethiopian Airlines. So we did that at the early May 2023. So we believe that we have made a change. Why? Because after the airlines was charged and after we made it that an international agenda through the international news agencies, they started to lift every ban and every violationist. So we are happy about that. And next is we do investigations, different investigations, human rights investigations, with in collaboration with maybe it could be news agencies or international human rights organizations like Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International. And we do also advocacy through medias, through local and international medias, awareness creation. So these are our main objectives, even though we are focusing outside Tigray, but currently we are working on Tigray. There are, as you said in the beginning, there are around 1,000 police officers, which was not allowed to get back to their job. Most of them maybe served in Tigray for about 20 or 30 years, but they are now unemployed and they can't feed their children, which is very bad. The interim government replaced them by very inexperienced police officers. By the way, the main reason for the lack of investigation in Tigray is because those that was brought from TDF are very inexperienced. They don't know how to investigate. They don't know the techniques. So what they know is just to collect evidence through torture and collecting illegal evidence, which is prohibited under the FDR constitution and the Tigray constitution. So we have brought that to agenda. So next time we are dealing with the Tigray administration and the Justice Bureau, so that hopefully we'll get back answer from them. If not, we are going to take it to the court. So just this is the introduction. Sorry for taking it too long.
Thank you, Mabrihi. That was very insightful and comprehensive. I mean, it's very interesting. You've touched on a couple of the kind of dealings that you have been involved in when it comes to seeking justice and accountability for different individuals and also for groups. So it's interesting. I mean, I will start off with asking Fuzum this question, but how important is it, Fuzum, in your eyes and the work that Tagazo has previously engaged in, to make sure that the accountability aspect of the democracy within Tigray is really, really like valued, not just by the society, but also by the government? And how is this transferable to seeking a society that that values stability and peace and all these different aspects that come with accountability. So in your eyes, what's the value of seeking accountability outside of just a simple kind of understanding of justice, everyone deserves justice? What's the implication for the society?
Thank you, Mel. I think CSOs are really crucial. If any society is going to be an open society and a society that has justice for everyone, CSOs are a necessary component. I don't think it can be achieved without that. It has always been said like that, but usually we got used to the government and the people. That's the way there is a binary view of things where we live. We don't usually see as independence not as a merit or neither as a merit nor as a possibility. But now I think with the changing economy and things like that, people are getting used to the idea of being independent, especially being economically independent leads some kind of mental independence, and then institutional independence can be seen as a possibility. Now, saying that, CSOs can hold individuals and organizations responsible for their actions, foster transparency, and force governments to be honest in their dealings. It also contributes to a broader sense of justice, especially among affected societies. For example, in our work, the first major work we have done was election observation in Tigray, which has never been done before. Actually, even elections have never been really held in Tigray. There was no multi-party exercise in Tigray, even if there was some minor exercise in the rest of Ethiopia. But the last election before the war, new parties were forming, and there was kind of a potential for a kind of true election. So we saw that opportunity, and we saw a gap that there was no election observation. The only election observation, foreign observation, was one friend of Tigray that came from abroad, which is obviously not enough for an election. The rest of Ethiopia was boycotting Tigrayan elections, so there was no room for that. We didn't have major funding, but we actually deployed election observation from Dansha to Waja. So our observers encompassed the whole Tigray, and we even contacted the parties to give us feedbacks and complaints for our reports. The reaction was not really as much as we expected, but it was a first attempt and it was a nice try. So that was our major successful work, and it was fully done with volunteers. No one got paid. No election observers were paid. Mostly they were teachers and individuals that we trusted to be independent. So that was our major work. When the war started, our work in the rest of Ethiopia was curtailed, so we focused mainly, even before the war, before the genocide, we were contacting foreign organizations, the UN, the AU, the chairs, everybody that could hear us, that there was targeted harassment against Tigrayans, and it could end up to a war against Tigray. We were kind of doing an outreach job, and we focused on foreign outreach because we understood that most of our discussions are held in tigrigna, and we kind of lacked the kind of foreign exposure or foreign reach. So we were focusing on that. When the war started, we fully immersed ourselves in that. Those of us that were in Mekelle, we did some kind of things on that front. We tried to outreach, email people, let people know, things like that. So that was our focus. But I'm not sure. I don't know if I can gauge the effectiveness. I probably give credit to the diaspora organizations than those of us here with meager capacity, but still we tried. So that was like our exercise. I think that that puts some drop in the vast ocean of Tigrayan campaigning and exercise. So that's one kind of an example that what CSOs can achieve to stop governments or to pressure governments to stop violations of human rights and deter some potential catastrophes. For example, before the capture of Mekelle, if you remember, the government of Ethiopia was warning for a carpet bombing, and our organization sent letters and made videos. So I'm not saying it's only because of that, but there was pressure from foreign governments, and the Mekelle situation was handled better. The occupation of Mekelle was handled better than the worst it could have been. So pressure of CSOs is much more hard than what governments say, because what governments say can be taken as propaganda, but CSOs have more credibility among the international community. So I think that's their major impact. And on human rights front is the same, because if the CSOs are believed to be independent, and it's mostly reflected in their work, if that's the case, the people will listen, and the government will be forced to, even the advent of social media has shown us how pressure can be put on the government. So CSOs can do that in an institutional and organized manner. So I think that's their main output. Thank you.
Thank you, Fitsum. So that's very interesting. So you kind of highlighted the impact that pre the war on Tigray, the kind of impact that the engagement that your organization had kind of taken part in had actually effects post conflict and also during the war as well, and how the civil societies can have a bigger voice and be more heard than government institutions, and also the importance in making sure that clear separation is used to the advantage of the people. So I think that's very interesting that you pointed those out. If we go to Mabrihi to kind of expand as well on some of the things that you touched on, Mabrihi, you said, for example, you spoke about the police officers who are now not working in Tigray, and they had been replaced with much less experienced officers, and how some of these kind of issues were causing the deeper human rights issues in Tigray, because of the fact that there's a lack of experience, and you can expand on other reasonings as well behind that. But also, Mabrihi, what's interesting about your organization is that you kind of you work on putting Tigrayans in any situation, whereas even if it's in Addis, if it's in Tigray, Tigrayans first. So meaning whether it's the Ethiopian federal government, whether it's the local government in Tigray, it's still the same kind of engagement that you have with people in authority when it comes to the rights of individuals. So it's very interesting to see that, a civil society is completely that principle of representing the people stays intact, wherever you're representing these people, even if it's in Addis Ababa or if it's in Mekelle. So how important is it that other civil societies also take this approach in representing the people, in making sure that they address human rights issues wherever they may arise?
Thank you, Mel, again. To start with, especially during the genocidal war, we were having on things outside like Addis and other, because we were personally looking at the violations. We were visiting the concentration camps in Addis. We were collecting evidences. So this was very interesting for us to make it an agenda and to work with the international human rights organizations. So we have also got the chance to participate at the International Commission of Human Rights Experts workshop in Nairobi. So we presented a paper about justice and accountability. So it was very interesting for us. It was very interesting. I can say like about 10 Tigrayans was represented from refugees, from Addis, from victims. And so I think we believe that the final recommendations and findings was also impacted by the participants in Nairobi. So coming to the accountability, in terms of the engagement, what we do is like we investigate and we collect, we release our investigations. So we'll give that to the concerned authorities, be it the federal government or the regional government, and we'll tell them if they are not going to take the measures to correct the problems, we are going to take it to the court. We are not saying that there are independent courts, but we are testing them relatively. So to take the because like profit institutions like Ethiopian Airlines they are afraid of their name, so they will be taker of their names. So taking the case to the court by itself is one step. So that was just immediately, they just immediately responded after they received the charge, and they responded, we are not accountable, other organizations are accountable for this. So what we are working, even though 90% of our focus is on Tigrayans, but it does not mean we are not neglecting other groups. Like, for example, we were representing the command, some groups from Gondar, we represented them as a Federal Supreme Court, and we are also handling their case. I mean, because they are also one of the minorities affected by the federal and regional governments. So even though we are focusing mainly on Tigray and Tigrayans, we are not neglecting other groups too, because we are working on human rights. We are registered as a federal government so that we can work everywhere as much as it is possible, and related financial capabilities. So in terms of accountability, as you know, in Tigray, it is not just, it is a culture, like it is inherited from the TPLF. There is no legal accountability, but it's always there is political accountability from the regional government to local administrations or Kabale administrations. What they do is they will have the so-called gumgama, so they will not take it seriously. Like, to raise one example, when we were at Woro Judicial Center, there was a senior government official, so who was suspected of corruption. So it was asked by the then anti-corruption commission of the region to be prosecuted. But what the senior TPLF leadership said was, no, this guy was just, he's a fighter, so he should not be accountable. Consider how they are taking such kind of reasons not to be accountable. So the culture is not legal accountability, but it's political accountability. But political accountability cannot sustain justice, cannot sustain peace, because without accountability, there is no sustainable peace. You know, specifically in Tigray, currently, as I have said, we have new police officers which was recruited during the war. Just exactly 2 years ago, the police officers were just, they are very teenagers, maybe I can say, maybe not teenagers, maybe, but between 20 and 25 years old, or maximum 30. So they don't have, they have only the order from their seniors. So just if they have the order, they are going to do it or not. Relatively, those experienced police officers just have at least how to handle a suspect, how to interrogate, how to collect evidence, both technically and maybe it could be forensic or something like that. So, and the judges, most of the judges are our friends actually. We went to either to the judicial justice system or to university. So they told us their difficulties. Because of what? Because of the intervention from the TPLF. We have to be bold on this. Specifically during the genocidal war, there were regulations that was enacted by TPLF in the middle of the war. This regulations are very, very vague and against individual and collective rights. Like judges cannot independently. So I know that some judges was suspended from their job because of their decision, because they decided based on law and the facts. It was recently that was reinstated to their job. To be specific, actually may not be good to raise the names of the individuals, but the previous Supreme Court president, maybe during the genocidal war, during the 2 years, he was simply just, he will meet the generals, so he will tell them, what kind of law you want? How can I make you happy? What could you believe? From a senior judge? And they also decided that, you know, in criminal law will work not retroactively, but for the future. If you enact a criminal law today, it is going to work for the future, not backward. But the Supreme Court, the regional Supreme Court, decided that criminal law cannot work, can work retroactively. What does that mean? They decided, just they said that the regulations was enacted just in 2014, so they can work in 2013. I'm speaking in the Greek calendar. So this much legality was very compromised, I can say. It is continuing. So as a civil society, we are trying to make it like, we are trying to, because it started from the laws. If the laws are not healthy, judges cannot decide healthy decisions, so that we are evaluating them whether they are in line with the constitution or not, whether they are constitutional or not. If they are not constitutional, we'll give them, please, these laws are against the constitution. Last week, the interim government enacted a law which prohibits people to go to court to claim their salary. For the, like it said, courts cannot handle cases of either civil servants or the private laborers in court. That is against the constitution. People have the right to justice, you know, in court. Courts can entertain their case based on the law and the facts. Therefore, we are doing on this first. Next, what we are also trying to work with the regional. There is judicial center, by the way. There is justice institution training judges and prosecutors in the region. So give trainings to judges. In Tigray, before you are a judge or a prosecutor, you have to go to the judicial center for training because you cannot be a judge immediately after you graduate from law school. So we are just in a way to sign a memorandum of accession, memorandum of understanding, sorry, with them, so that we can train judges, we can train prosecutors, we can train police officers, investigative police officers, or criminal prevention police officers, or others in the region, so that by the way, it is very challenging. We know it is very challenging because they don't want to engage in such activities, but we are going to pay sacrification on this. Without paying sacrification, we cannot achieve our goals of accountability. So this is in terms of the regional accountability. We know the national accountability. We know both the TPLF and the federal governments are working for not to be accountable. Not to be accountable. To be honest, just I am not accountable, you are not accountable, so let's do it this way. The Pretoria Agreement in terms of justice is not, it is just non-accountability for me, because we know, I was working as a Minister of Justice, I know how everything are going, so they will say, okay, we are working on transnational justice. No, that is not the case. In Tigray, we work also with the regional universities, law school. So at least we tried to make that transnational justice was not accepted in Tigray, so that to be reported to the international community should know. And we are engaging also with some of the embassies on issues of justice and accountability in Tigray and both in Addis. So in terms of accountability, it is very challenging. The ground, working on the ground, Futsum knows how the issue of democracy is very challenging. Even Getachew is a lawyer, we know, but some of the laws that are signed by him are against his basic profession. So we are going to challenge that. I mean, we are going to take it to the federal. It could be to the. We don't want to take it, but we don't have any other option. So we have to strive for this. And so, to be honest, in terms of funding or something like that, we are working on that. We were doing this by our we are lawyers, so we just use our profession, nothing else. We are not collecting money from people. We are not doing any kind of fundraising or something like that. But after this time, we are just planning to have litigations, I mean, impacting the whole society. Litigations, it could be against the immigration. For example, in the Ethiopian immigration, there are basic issues. There are discrimination. If you go there to get a passport, they will say, no, you are Eritrean. So that which is not provided in any law or something like that. I think we have to work together, but our main objective is accountability and democratization in Tigray, putting law and order so that everyone can enjoy his or her human rights. So that's our goal. Like by investigating, after investigating, we will advocate for that. We will tell the medias. It could be the international or local medias, so that people this time, to be honest, from Tigray, people are contacting us. Like we are not getting back to our job. Journalists, civil servants, they are contacting us. Actually, in terms of the time problem we have, we are we are having mechanisms like what kind of cases should we handle. Mostly public interest cases should be come first, and if their individual cases, will give them advice. So we are working on such things. Thank you so much for having giving this time.
Thank you, Mabuhi. That was very there was a lot of information there. I think that needs to be unpacked because there's so much. I think even in terms of some of the dealings that you spoke about, I think would be the first time people are hearing about these kind of obstacles when it comes to the justice system in Tigray. So I think it's very interesting that you're really breaking it down for us to be able to understand what the actual structural issues are when it comes to justice. So if you could just come in here and if we can kind of tie in the legal hurdles being faced by the legal hurdles being faced by the civil societies. I mean, I think Mabuhi kind of explained some of the issues within the justice system itself. But what kind of political and legal hurdles are the civil societies facing? And when they are facing these hurdles, how has that affected their ability to engage in, for example, the data and evidence collection for accountability on a wider scale against the genocide that happened against the people? Are there any civil societies that are working on these issues? And from your perspective, or Tegezo's perspective, why is kind of seeking accountability on this wider scale, why is that not being championed as much as possible by evidence and data collection by civil societies in Tigray? And if it is, please do shine a light on that as well.
Thank you, Mish. When talking about the legal hurdles, I differ much to Mabuhi, who is the professional actually, but I can talk in general terms. He probably knows it because, especially when setting up a civic society that is federally licensed, which means that can work in multiple regions, it's really a bit difficult than setting up a local CSO. So that's why the number of federal licensed civic organizations in Tigray is not that many. I'm not sure if there are more than 5, but local licensing should be easier. But unfortunately, in Tigray, I think it has, even after Pretoria, maybe if it started this couple of months, I don't know. So it has not been allowed, because I tried to do that because we had difficulty with our organization, and we checked the legal mechanisms, and it was really difficult. But for charities was easily given, because they cannot be involved in advocating for human rights. So there are legal hurdles. There have been legal hurdles since the beginning of time, I can say, I think. Since the last 2-3 decades, the EPRDF law was very tight. Then it got relaxed, but then there were other hurdles that were set to discourage people from doing that. But I think there are funding restrictions, things like that. I don't want to go into that, because it have been a lot said about that, and since we are not about to change it, I don't like dwelling on that. But more than the legal hurdle is financial hurdle is really difficult, because in Ethiopia in general, and in Tigray in particular, in fact in Tigray it's really worse than the rest of Ethiopia. People funding something they believe in is literally unheard of, or never tried. Some people tried it once or twice in political parties on things like that, and they paid a price for it. I will give respect for that, but it's not common. So an organization trying to be independent and do its work independently will have a hard time exercising its works in Tigray. In Ethiopia, still difficult, but relatively better. So Tigray has a lot to go with respect to its neighbors, let alone international criteria. So the hurdles, the legal hurdles and the financial hurdles are still there. Even some of them, when they are lifted in the rest of Ethiopia, in Tigray, it's really still difficult. The other one is the culture is still really not there. Instead of institutions, we are mostly focused about individuals. That's the culture, because this is a feudal and a dictatorial society, this Eastern Africa as a whole. So we're not used to that. Instead of judging human rights first by what it has done, as a citizen of this nation, I will go straight to who Mabrihi is. I will make it personalized. That will make organizations difficult, because organizations are a collection of people, and they'll have different views, different past exercises. So that also inhibits, because some of them that really try to do their works independently will have a hard time on that. So there are also cultural hurdles in addition to legal and financial. But I want to focus on one thing, on what Mabri was giving us. He was focusing on individual issues, because as a lawyer and as an organization, I think that's a good way of dealing with human rights violations. But I think actually they have put charges against institutions, so they are also doing that. So I'm not saying they're not doing that, but our organization wants to really focus on institutional engagement. I think that's the way to go. Getachew is a lawyer, nobody said yes, but I don't think any liberal person can come to Tigray and not sign absurd laws. The system is really designed not for transparency or democracy. So I think we should also work to change the system, the institutions, things like that. And I think the way to go is by doing institutional engagements. Of course, there is a public forums and public discussions that have been held for 30 years. Usually, they're not real. They are organized for, it's a facade. But I think the new way of doing business should be engaging with Tigrayan organizations abroad and inside, and talking with them, putting forth laws for criticisms, because they are independent, unlike the people you gather at Kabale forums, who are really under the influence of the administrative officials, because the officials have their if they are going to get any aid or anything is controlled by the officials. The people cannot really say as much as they want, even if the Tigrayans are really daring and they say a lot of things. It's really hard. So the new way of doing business should be engaging with organizations. For example, if the government is planning a new law, human rights first should be called to comment on it. There are other organizations. We have scholars everywhere, from Mongolia to the US, Tigrayan scholars. They can be called not only government-sanctioned forums, but trying to engage all civic organizations. I think that would make the change we want come faster than focusing on good individuals, good persons. I don't think it really works, because I personally believe Mallas was a good person, but I don't think it matters because he's the leader of an old feudal state. So anyone that comes to Ethiopia or Tigray and is on power will be forced to conform to the culture, to the non-democratic culture of the states we live in. So we should work on engagement. That needs some kind of funding and support, but I think collaboration beats that. Of course, it requires some kind of help. We had a website for our organization, just mentioning an example, and we put on it, we're starting to put on it a feedback portal so that we can collect complaints anonymously from people, ordinary Tigrayans, anywhere. So we might not have an office on southern region or things like that, but there is a way for people to get heard and to get addressed. So there are we're trying technological innovations and things like that, but now everything is gone thanks to the genocide. So we need some kind of support, especially technological support, expertise, things like that. Some of the costs can be reduced by innovative technologies. There are a lot of things that have came up during the siege, so we have to relearn some of it. So I think that's the way to go. I'm not sure if I answered everything.
Just very quickly, for some, you spoke about institutional engagement. So my question, just kind of, I want to give you a chance to just expand on that a bit. When it comes to institutional engagement, without the financial backing or the financial resources for civil societies being present, how are they able to sustain, to even do the work together, to engage and to actually push for change in any kind of aspect? So I know you mentioned the need for support, but how exactly are they going to get this support if, for example, there's hurdles when it comes to registration? There's hurdles when it comes to registering in through the federal government. So some of the funding that they can apply for might be limited. And also who supports them when it comes to capacity building, because they don't get that support from governments who probably do not want to see them function independently, right? So where does people who work in civil societies abroad, so in the diaspora or other organizations that may be in the kind of position to support, where do they come in? What part do they play in this?
Yeah, the registrations and the legal hurdles, I think they can be passed. It will require resilience and some kind of personal sacrifices, but they can be overcome. The difficulty is with obtaining fundings and things like that. For that, it's like a poverty trap. There are 2-3 layers to it. There is a lack of expertise to even ask for it, to know who to ask for it, the know-how to the technologies to contact anyone wherever there is. So there are some layers to it, but I think the diaspora takes the main responsibility for this, because we saw during the war that the diaspora has the potential to do miracles, literally. Some accuse it that it was kind of more reliant on the government, but since it's living in the land of the free, most of the northern diaspora at least, I think we can some kind of convince the diaspora to find a way to support local organizations. By local, I mean the organizations in their locality. The Belgium diaspora can support Belgium organizations and maybe send them a note that work with organizations on the ground collaborate. I think that can solve a lot of things, because I'm not sure how many people are in Europe or in London, but we are during protests and during fundraisings, we have seen that the diaspora can do miracles. Now the war is not over, or the struggle is not over. The struggle was for freedom. So until and up to every Tigrayan is free or feeling free in every sense of the word, from day-to-day lives up to nationhood, or everything, in every aspect, the diaspora have to continue the struggle, knowing that it hasn't ended. We can't be reliant on foreign organizations, because they usually have their own agenda. That's why they usually want to go by other organizations from the rest of Ethiopia, and not really engaging with Tigrayans in Tigray that are actually in Tigray. So they really have their agenda. That should be overcome, but that's another issue. But what we can do is that find a way to convince the diaspora that the struggle for freedom is not over. So they should get involved, be members of organizations in their locality or in Tigray, be active members, contribute in not only financially, but in their expertise, in their knowledge, and everything. So we should consider it as if we are still in a war, in a sense, because it's not over. Yes, we'll have to help our TDF and their families. That's a struggle too. That should continue. We'll have to help our farmers, which are really economically debilitated. So we should do that as well. And the political and social change aspect is also crucial, because without that, as we do in our history, it will be a repeat. We'll repeat our mistakes every couple of decades. So that's I think that's the way to go. I don't see any other solution other than involving Tigrayans en masse. Thank you.
Thank you for some. Maybe if we can just kind of take some of what Fuzum has said and kind of give your perspective on the engagement of the diaspora with civil societies in Ethiopia, in Tigray, and how has this, for example, your organization focuses on the justice system and kind of pushing back against certain policies that violate human rights or violate an individual's freedom. So when it comes to the kind of work that you do, we see a lot of engagement of the diaspora with local organizations that provide immediate relief, emergency relief, aid, things like that, things that address the very immediate kind of needs that our people have. But when it comes to supporting and engaging with civil societies that are really trying to battle against structural or long-term issues, do you think that they should invest in supporting these kind of organizations, or organizations like yourself and Fuzum's, to impact long-term change?
Thank you, Mel. Again, in terms of engagement with the diaspora, as you have said previously, it was most of the time kind of like festivals, cultural day, or something like that. It was not beyond that. And in terms of emergency relief, problems are very rampant in terms of drought. About more than 2 million people need aid because of the drought. There are over 1 million IDPs. So you can see how most of the people, you can say, is just dependent on aids. So mostly it was like, it could be collecting money, and sometimes because it was not institutionalized, basically the fundraising, it could be collecting money. Sometimes it is abused by some individuals. There are no accountabilities. Even in the diasporas, you can hear such kind of rumors. But currently, we are very happy that you guys, or the diaspora-based institutions, or like the Tigray Youth Network, or the other networks based in the US or in Europe, are making this engagement in terms of accountability and democratization, so that this is a very new arena for us. So yeah, we believe that we can work together on this in terms of long-term achievement, because the emergency relief or something like that is important, but it is not making some kind of sustainability. It's not sustainable actually. The sustainability is just making institutions functional, making institutions independent institutions, so that if there are independent institutions, like even how the international organization, the USAID was posing food aid, WFP was also doing the same. Why? Because there is corrupt institutions, there is no accountability, so that if we are focusing on just short-term things, we cannot achieve our goal. So that this time, especially from the youth, the youth from the diaspora, we are very happy to engage with you on justice, on accountability, on democratization, on the rule of law, on institutions, building institutions. As an organization, our aim is just to build an independent institution which is free of any intervention. That means, as an institution, if you are not free of any intervention, if, for example, I am getting fund from a political organization, so I'm going to be like serving that kind of political party. So we have to be very independent. We know it is very difficult, like in terms of funding, but if we are repeating the same mistake of this kind of issues, I don't think we can achieve our goals. So that in terms of engagement in Tigray, we believe that, like, the diaspora, the federal-based institutions, Tigray-based local institutions or local NGOs, civil society organizations, if we can work together, we may not change like in 5 or 10 years, but in the long run, we can surely we can have independent institutions, because it is a process. We don't believe that we can make a change overnight, but it is a process. We started the journey so that others could join us. We can work together. You know how, like, to be like the fundraising by volunteers, for example, they are raising. So that's one thing, because currently the society is, to be honest, in maybe 3 or more than 3 zones. Hearing their story is very, very, very terrible. Why? Because they cannot feed their children, so that is priority, we know. But we can also work side by side. That means we can work on the emergency reliefs, and we can also work on rule of law, you can also work on accountability and justice. Because, you know, even though we don't believe we are still in a post-conflict situation. Why? Because there are over 1 million IDPs living in bad conditions in the camps, in cities. And we have also thousands of prisoners of former NDF members of Tigrayans everywhere. Over 3,000, we know. So because of their ethnicity, nothing. They have not done nothing, but because of their ethnicity. In Tigray, also we have like lengthy trials, like the pre-trial. If you know, for like specific cases for the murder of the case that was yeah, somehow, or yeah. So even she is not she don't get the right to speedy trial just to raise specific issues. There are, like, you know, there are abductions currently. There are people are abducted for ransom, which was not there before. We don't hear this before. Like pre-2020, there was not these issues in Tigray, to be honest. But currently, we believe that they are not working this alone, but they are working with some kind of it could be with the military officials. We don't know. We have to investigate to find the truth, so that limiting the power, like the power of the militaries, for example, is not limited these days. This is very dangerous for the society, by the way. It seems good now, but for the long run, the military is very dangerous. We know this from the experience of other countries, how the military abuse power, how they may take power, so that, which is a very difficult obstacle to achieve the democratization and rule of law in Tigray. So that we believe that we can work together, specifically in terms of engagement. Like this is just very, very interesting engagement. I can say, I don't know, it is for the first time maybe. You guys take the initiative, so we joined you, so at least we can make changes in the long run. In terms of funding, there are difficulties, we know, but we can work, like if we work in collaboration. In terms of funding, it could be lack of experience of maybe proposal writing, approaching the funding institutions. So we can share on that. I mean, you can share as your experience, so that in terms of there are institutions we know that funding human rights institutions, but because of this lack of experience of funding or related issues, we may be unable to get the funds. But we believe that we can get those funds if we strongly work together. So that's what I can say. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mabuhi. I think I will kind of try to touch on some of the important stuff I think you guys have mentioned. Fuzum, I think you are very comprehensive in explaining the need for institutional engagement and the importance of it in overcoming some of the existing issues that you feel are very much cemented into the way that the society functions. And you believe that institutional engagement is something that can possibly break that chain, to break that cycle of accepting the status quo when it comes to the justice, accountability, and also the independence of civil societies as well. And you also spoke about the need for resources, the need for financial financial empowerment of the civil societies, but also how that again goes hand in hand simultaneously with the institutional engagement to build capacity and empower the civil societies. Mabrihi, some of the stuff that you said, I think I kind of got a quote from you, which was very interesting, which I really loved actually, was political accountability cannot sustain justice or peace. There needs to be legal accountability. And I think that's a very important statement. And you also kind of, you co-signed what Fitsum said about institutional engagement. And you, I think a very important point you touched on just now as well was the militarization of society and how that can be very problematic in the long run. And although there was a need for it during the war, is there still a need for it? And how do you, integrate those that have, that we have so much respect, and, we have so much a gratitude towards? How do you integrate them into the society without allowing that to surpass, for example, in placing people in positions of power where there is a lack of merit, for example, there's a lack of experience, and we have seen, you mentioned a couple of cases where we have seen the implications of this, and how we can possibly deal with those things. It's very sensitive, but how could we deal with those things? And you both spoke about the need for diaspora engagement on these matters. Yes, it's very important to have diaspora engaged when it comes to immediate relief and immediately addressing the needs of the people, but also long-term engagement is very important. So I'll give you guys a couple of minutes to, maybe 2 minutes to just give closing remarks, and we will finish up our discussion for today. I'll give it the mic to Fitsum first.
Thank you, Mel. You have summarized it very well, so I'm not going to take a long time. One point I wanted to raise that I believe shouldn't be missed is that, for example, I want to take the example of police brutality. All my life, I've seen and experienced police brutality. I don't remember a time that wasn't the case in Ethiopia, and same in Tigray. The previous police of Tigray, or the current police of Tigray, have this in common, at least. I think Mavri will agree with that. Police brutality was there, and it's here now. So sometimes it's about the culture. Most of the police, I've interacted with them because of some issues I had to take to the police and things like that, and they are really young. Most of them are not. They went to the struggle to give their life to their people. So relatively, I have some liking for them. They can't be bad people, at least, because they have given us everything. So when they become a police, of course, they lack the experience, they lack the know-how, because policing is a science, is not something that you acquire one day. Unlike being a Tigrayan official, policing is real work, so it takes some kind of experience and learning. So yes, they need experience, they need to be taught, they need to be given capacity buildings, and there are governments who have provided that to Ethiopian government for decades, like the government of Britain. It has always provided police trainings and things like that. Even if our governments cherry-picked and always kept the brutality part intact, there are trainings and there are things. So we shouldn't really. I know Mavri is not condemning them. He's just highlighting their inexperience, and we shouldn't also appreciate the previous police force because they have been the tool of suppression for the tool of oppression and suppression. So we should find a balance of giving them trainings, legal trainings. I think Mavri's organization, Human Rights First, can do some kind of things on this front if given opportunity, I'm sure. So giving them trainings, integrating them with previous police officers that have a good name and the public's backing, things like that. So we should always strive for a balance and acknowledge that the main problem is the institutional culture or character. Because if we bring the UK police, I'm sure it will start being highly brutal because that's the culture, that's the government it's operating under. The last time our friends were trying to rally for several questions, and the police were told to beat them as much as they can. That was the literal order. I've known that through my own personal ways, and they were told to crush them, and they did. So maybe it's not the problem of the police, but it's the problem of the government. That's usually what happens because several police factions were formed throughout the years just for the sole purpose of being very efficient in their brutality. So when I summarized it, we should focus on the institutional aspect of it. That's my main point, because some of them are our friends. Some of them were, when they were beating the protesters, they were telling them that please try to be careful. We are ordered to do this, but we want you to escape. Things like that. They were trying to be less harsh, some of them. So it's not about the individuals mostly, but it's an institutional problem. So we should strive for that. So as our organizations, we plan to monitor violations, because we believe most of the violations are not even recorded in Tigray. They have become so common that they don't go to courts, they don't go to lawyers. So monitoring violations, recording them, and making them available, maybe then working with other organizations like Human Rights First and others, so that it can be fruitful. That's the way we are planning to go on that. And if anyone wants to join us and support our work with his profession or anything, we are open to it. Thank you very much. And thank you for preparing this panel.
Thank you, Fasum. That was a very good closing remark. I think it's very good to highlight the fact that people can join and support the initiatives you guys are working on, and just even in terms of you as an organization, and that there is always room for more involvement when it comes to those who have the expertise to kind of support Tigray-based organizations. So thank you for some. Mavrihi, if you can make your closing remarks.
Thank you, Mel. First of all, I want to thank you, Tigray Youth Network and others, for this engagement. To be honest, we are very happy. Just in conclusion, I want to say that let's work together for accountability and democratization in Tigray. That is our main focus. And if we work together, we can make changes, I believe, in the long run. So just we believe in institutions. If there are institutions, it is, I mean, it is for all. If you have institutions, it is for the governing party or for the opposition party, for human rights, for institutions, for ordinary citizens, for everyone. But if you don't have institutions, just it is going to be what's happening right now. So our main focus is just building institutions, democratic institutions. It could be like the justice institutions. It could be civil society organizations. So let's work on this. And I agree with Futsum that it is an institutional problem. We have to see it just as an institutional problem, because if the institution is not healthy, we don't expect the individual members to be healthy. So they are going to follow their leaders. They are going to follow the institutional setup. So yeah, so our interest is for Tigray. So if we agree on this, I think we can achieve our goal. So it's in terms of police brutality, it is the same here and there. In terms of in the region or here, it's the same. So that I believe that like the previous police officers and the current police officers can work together. We need them, by the way, we need them all. But prohibiting those police officers that was working for, because they told me their problem. Like one guy was talking to me a few days ago. So he told me he just worked for about 30 years, but now for 3 years he's not getting any salary. So I can feel that. I was just a government employee. So when I was a government employee, I know if my salary is not paid, if it is delayed for 2 3 days, I know how I was feeling. So delaying for 3 years or 2 years, I don't think it is advantageous for Tigray, for the people. Those guys have experience, and the police officers that came from the TDF, they were sacrificing their life for the people. So if they work together, they can make change. So we will actually work on, we are collaborating with the regional justice, Agazi justice training that is based in Wuro. So we are going to sign in the coming few days. So we'll try to give trainings to police officers, to the judges, prosecutors, so that I think we can make some differences in terms of justice and accountability. So lastly, I just want to thank you all for making this panel and the previous engagements. To be honest, we were not very active on this because of the time, because of sometimes the time zone, sometimes going to court or something like that. We are not very active. We know that. We'll try to be very active, I think, in the coming discussions. So thank you so much.
Thank you both. Yes, it is definitely the start of ongoing engagement and dialogue. And this is just, I'm 100% sure, the first of many. So we are very hopeful that this continuous engagement, and not just in identifying the issues, but working in collaboration to kind of look for solutions for some of the issues that we've highlighted, I think is very important. And I have no doubt that we will move forward in that direction. Thank you both for joining us. Thank you for the work that your organizations have done and will do and are currently doing as well. Thank you for your insightful engagement today here, and some of the kind of some of the wisdom that you've managed to give me and those who are listening as well. So it's much appreciated. Thank you for your time. And we will end the panel discussion here. So thank you all for watching, for engaging, and for partaking.